Hi, this is Tom Field, Vice President of Editorial with Information Security Media Group. Welcome to today's session, entitled The 3 Ds of Incident Response, Protecting Your Company from Insider Threats. Your speaker today is Rob Williams, Chief Marketing Officer with Spector. Now, before I introduce Rob, let me give you just a bit of background on today's session. As organizations seek better ways to avoid or respond to insider threats, a strong foundation can provide higher effectiveness through greater insight into potential threats. In this session, you'll learn how to detect, detail, and deter insider threats as part of your data security strategy. During the session, we will discuss how logging end-user activity will help you detect malicious activity, see the detail behind a possible threat, and improve security measures that deter future threats. Topics will include effective detection mechanisms that provide alerts to potential threats, how to obtain detailed information showing what happened, to what extent, those involved, and even why, and how to improve security measures that provide greater deterrence. Just a bit about Information Security Media Group. We currently publish more than 24 international media sites. We have Bank Info Security and CU Info Security for financial services, Gov Info Security for the public sector, and Healthcare Info Security for the medical community. We also publish Info Risk Today about information risk management, Data Breach Today about breach prevention and response, and Careers Info Security. Each of these sites is dedicated to providing education and news regarding information security, but specifically tailored to their individual sectors. With over 350,000 members registered to our sites, we've created a true information source that tackles the key issues of interest to our unique audience. Just a couple of housekeeping notes, please. If you have any questions for Rob during the course of this session, please submit them via the chat window on your screen. If anyone should experience technical issues while viewing today's webinar, please dial the number on your screen. If you dial extension 115, we do have technical support staff standing by to help. Also, I need to emphasize, the content being presented in today's webinar is copyrighted material and it's meant for today's session and individual study purposes only. If you or your organization would like to use the information presented in today's session or are looking for customized training education, please contact us. Let me take just a moment to talk to you about our sponsor today, Spector. Spector creates solutions that protect businesses by identifying data theft, employee fraud, data breaches, and compliance violations, all in real time. By monitoring and alerting on employee activity and system events, Spector solutions uniquely provide you with detailed, timely, and actionable information to lower risk, ensure compliance, and of course, increase security. Over 36,000 global companies, from the small business to the Fortune 50, leverage Spector's visibility into digital activity. For more information, please visit www.spectorsoft.com. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Rob Williams, Chief Marketing Officer with Spector. Rob is responsible for building a results-driven marketing organization and architecting a cohesive brand strategy to deliver measurable results in both the corporate and consumer markets served. Previously, Rob was VP of Global Brand Development at Kaseya, leading the overall brand and creative direction, inbound and consumer marketing efforts, social strategy, and evolution of product UI and user experience. With that, it's my pleasure to turn this over now to Rob Williams. Rob?
The SANS Institute defines incident response as an organized approach to addressing and managing the aftermath of a security breach or attack. They lay out 6 steps to handling an incident most effectively. These steps don't necessarily differentiate between internal or outside attacks, or even viruses and malware. Preparation is defined as education, training, and the policies and procedures that a company may put in place. Identification, obviously, is finding out, is this a breach or an attack? Containment, of course, is to stop further damage and begin to determine scope. Eradication, to eliminate the problem. Recovery refers to the remediation and fixing whatever has happened. And then the lessons learned include analyzing and improving and avoiding a reoccurrence. The best definition I've heard for insider threat is when you've given authorized access to someone in your organization, like an employee or a vendor, and they use it in an unauthorized way. It's difficult to guard against because you're putting trust in someone. You want to believe you've trusted the right people, but every day there's a news story of an insider that's broken that trust. Not all insider threats are malicious. Some may be mischievous. In fact, we find most are inadvertent. However, they still require attention to mitigate damage. Inadvertent incidents may be handled with proper training for acceptable use and even ongoing continued security education. However, types of malicious and mischievous incidents, as shown here, can end up causing the greatest concern and cost for your organization. The industries that are most susceptible shouldn't be a surprise, as they have some of the most valuable assets. Whether it's financial assets or data in banking and financial services, or the sensitive or maybe personal nature of data in government or the healthcare sector. Manufacturing and technology often possess intellectual property that can be quite valuable in the wrong hands. As you can see here, there's a staggering amount, 2.9 trillion, in theft and fraud losses occurring each year. Those losses lower profit, can cost jobs, and hurt the overall viability of your company. In just the US alone, employee theft and fraud is estimated to have an annual impact of $40 billion a year. So let's walk through our 3Ds. The first one is deter. We consider deter, or deterrence, as our first line of defense. Our first goal is to keep something from happening at all. We recommend that everyone start with education and training. Have a clear, acceptable use policy that is provided and explained upon hiring. It should state that you have the right and means to monitor computer and network activity. While it may only be 10% of the employee population that is responsible for most of the total losses, that's still a big number. More concerning is we don't know exactly who presents the risk. The Sentencing Project did a study where they determined that the certainty of punishment was more of a deterrent than the severity. So making a punishment more harsh does little as a deterrent, as opposed to convincing someone that they will be caught. You're probably familiar with deterrence efforts in everyday life. A security camera in your office parking garage, or even red light cameras, are a common example. Other examples include the TSA at the airport, a police car parked along a busy road, even if there's no officer inside. How about alarm or guard dog signage? You may not even see the dog. So those that decide they're willing to risk being caught, or just want to test to see if the deterrence measures are real, you need to be able to detect a threat as soon as possible. As you can see here, companies continue to spend more, but the number of leaks continues to grow. Detection is the quickest way to find and resolve an issue. One alarming stat is that we're not even seeing all of the crimes that are happening. So from a detection standpoint, you want to be sure that your security measures are delivering timely alerts. We provide alerts based on keyword lists. We baseline activity so that we can detect anomalies. And we provide comprehensive dashboards that allow you to analyze the digital activity in your organization. Moving forward, we're looking at studies that say linguistics and speech patterns change as people start leading a double life or doing things they shouldn't be. With the valuable data that we collect, we're moving our detection capabilities into more of a predictive model. It is a minority report, but it can provide direction on where to focus your attention. The detail is the important piece. It's the data, the proof, or the evidence. You need to have the data that shows with certainty what happened and how, when the incident occurred, to what extent, what's the full scope of the issue, those who were involved, and even why. What was the motive? As in most investigations, the more detailed information you have, the better it is. It's hard to dispute absolute proof. Detailed data can eliminate he said, she said, and bring about a much faster conclusion to an incident. Different types of details may be needed by various departments that are dealing with very diverse incidents. Managers may be looking for productivity and efficiency drains. Finance may be watching for fraud. HR is probably concerned with many types of inappropriate behaviors. Compliance officers will have their specific focus, and internal security may be looking at any number of potential threats to the well-being of the company. The best evidence is either tangible or visual proof. It takes the hearsay, conjecture, and guessing out of the equation. Similar to a golfer's swing coach, being able to have a DVR-style playback of activity provides the necessary detailed information to train against inadvertent mistakes or as proof of mischievous or malicious intent. This brings us back to deter. We take what we learned during detection and from the detailed information to further improve our deterrence efforts. Remember the SANS Institute list and their last step, which was lessons learned? You want to make recommendations for better future response and for preventing a recurrence. You want to make any necessary corrections to your training process or company policies. Think about that golf swing coach using that video playback to make improvements. So how can SpectorSoft help? Our products monitor all of the activity on corporate-owned computers and networks. Emails sent and received, chat and IM communications, browser usage and online searches, applications used, file transfers, any of the ways that information can be transferred. This data is used to create alerts based on keyword usage or on activity that falls outside of the baseline. Our suite of products include versions like Spector 360 that provides full and complete detail at all times, or the highly touted Recon product that gives an organization the security insurance of detection alerts but offers a balance of privacy by keeping the data securely on the local machine. That data is then only accessible if cause is established and the detail needs to be unlocked. For focused and temporary investigations, our Spector C&E product is known as a forensic grade offering in the market. Because of C&E's ease of installation and use, it also becomes the go-to product for SMBs that don't have an incident response team or perhaps even a full-time IT department. Let's take a quick look inside the product. The Spector 360 Control Center allows you to configure what you'd like to record, set up database maintenance and backups, as well as creating alerts. Recording profiles can be created for different job types, specific groups or departments, security or access levels, or even risk categories, such as employees that either just came on board or maybe just gave their notice. Inside the settings for a recording profile, you can select what and how you'd like to record activity. As a default, everything is enabled, including snapshots, which can be recorded at intervals from every second up to 900. Plus, it can capture up to 8 monitors at once on a single machine. The snapshots playback gives you the ability to play, rewind, fast forward, and pause as you're reviewing the activity. You can configure exactly what activity you want to record to meet your needs. Chat and IM may be important since information can be copied and pasted or even transfer files. We also record both sides of the chat conversation. With websites visited or online searches, we're able to show not only how long a window was open, because it could be minimized or in another tab, but also the focus time, when it was in front. And even more importantly, the active time, when somebody was interacting with the page, scrolling, clicking, and it wasn't just left open during lunch. Email recording includes exchange, and more importantly, webmail activity, including content and attachments. When recording keystrokes, you can choose to exclude passwords for privacy. File tracking includes whether it was printed or copied to a removable storage device. The client recorder settings is where you can decide if you want Spector 360 to run in stealth mode or to be visible as a further deterrent. We provide a large number of pre-populated keyword watch lists of varying types. Plus, you can create custom lists that meet your company's goals, such as protecting communication about specific project code names. This is the Spector 360 Keyword Alert Dashboard, one of our many quick view panels. These can be shared with varying privileges out to necessary and appropriate departments or individuals. We provide over 100 canned charts that can be configured for each quick view panel. Within the Event Alerts list, you can drill into the settings for each one. First, you should designate exactly who should be notified of the alert. Next, using a Boolean expression, specify what keyword or activity type you want to trigger that alert. And lastly, select which group or individual you want this alert profile to be applied to. Taking a look at the Document Tracking Quick View panel, we can see who is interacting with the documents. This is where we can establish a baseline. We can also see how and which documents are being copied or printed. If we drill into Tara, we can learn about her document interaction and activity. As you can see here, she's been copying quite a few confidential customer list documents. As we drill into each of these instances, we'll be able to watch a snapshot playback of where she copied these to, or to what email address they may have been sent. Another way to approach the data is by looking at a specific individual through the User Explorer, rather than the broad event alert type. Here we're still looking into Tara's recent activity. Each activity that was set up to be recorded in the profile is listed across the top of the User Explorer detail page and shows the number of event alerts triggered for each. Here you can see the same document tracking data that we were looking at before, and still allows us to drill down to see the snapshot playback and understand the context of why those documents were being copied. Maybe you're curious about the usage of a particular keyword in your organization. You may not have an alert set up for it, and you aren't sure who may be using it. With the Spector 360 Global Search, you can input a keyword and then look for that keyword across all modes of communication. Let's say you want to see if the confidentiality of Project Athena has been compromised and how far it's spread. By searching for the Athena keyword, you can see all of the different usages that have happened in your corporate communication fabric. You can even go back and see where the leak may have started. Or maybe you just want to see if you have any employees that are looking for jobs. By searching the term resume, you can see where that has come up and find out if you're about to lose a valuable member of the team and all their intimate knowledge of your company to a close competitor. If you're thinking about implementing an employee monitoring program in your organization, follow this link for a free, comprehensive white paper that gives you all the details about the best way of going about it. It also includes a blanket acceptable use policy.
Rob, very good. We appreciate your insight. And we've got the opportunity now to take some questions from our audience members. I want to remind attendees, if you have questions for Rob, now's the perfect time to submit them via the chat window on your screen. I'm sure we won't have time to answer every question in today's session, but for those questions that we don't get to today, we will get responses back to you via email. That said, we do have questions starting to come in. Rob, the first question I have for you, what is the risk of false positives with your monitoring solutions?
Well, we don't really deal with too many false positives since we're collecting the actual activity by the user on their machine. But by having the detail of each incident, false positives like you may see, normally from a log management solution, we can identify that, and you can adjust your keyword alerts and activity reports to eliminate triggers of those future occurrences.
Another question for you. Just knowing that they're being monitored, in what ways does that have a deterrent effect on people's behavior?
Well, hopefully it's a significant effect. Generally, the goal of security protocols isn't to catch someone doing something inappropriate. It's to keep something from happening at all. It kind of goes back to what we said earlier in the presentation about severity versus certainty. It's why you see security cameras in every casino, bank, and convenience stores.
Rob, you're able to monitor company-owned devices. With so much work being done today on employee-owned devices, how can we organizations monitor our insider risks there?
Yeah, that's going to be a tricky one for many companies. A lot of them are going through that now, and it's going to depend on how they put out their BYOD or BYOC policies. Those who are in charge of corporate security need to be sure that they're covering all their bases there. Any unmanaged device that has access to the network and data becomes another potential point of failure. So, the best way to do it is monitoring anybody that has access in your network and to your data.
With your solution, it seems easy to detect malicious or mischievous behavior. But what about the unintentional insider who makes a mistake or is being taken advantage of by an external actor?
Well, we like to say, with our solution, you can find out exactly what happened, to what extent, who was involved, and perhaps most importantly, why it happened. Being able to see if the activity after, during, or even leading up to an incident tells you whether it was inadvertent or there was some sort of motive behind it.
So in other words, you detect the anomaly, and then you can decide what the context of that anomaly is.
Exactly, and the fact that you can go, back in time to see what led up to it. That's where you can find out if it was truly inadvertent or if there, was a cause.
We've got time for a couple more questions, but I do want to remind attendees, if you have additional questions for Rob, please submit them now via the chat window on your screen. Again, those questions we can't answer today, we will get responses back via email. Rob, we've talked a lot about technology. What sort of non-technical behavioral controls can be put in place by organizations to complement your monitoring solution?
Well, we always tell the companies that you should tell your employees that you have the right and the means to monitor user activity, and that should have an effect on the behavior to start with. This should be part of an acceptable use policy that all employees are given. Additionally, we recommend ongoing security training to guard against data breaches and losses, from phishing attempts or login hacks or other threats. As we talked about before, again, some of these incidents are malicious and mischievous, but most of the data shows that the greatest majority are inadvertent.
Well, we do have time for one last question here. Rob, I wonder if you might be able to offer a specific example or two about how some of your customers have mitigated insider damage by using your solution. I know you probably can't name the customers, but you could give us a couple examples from the industries you deal with.
Yeah, obviously for privacy, we don't share the specifics of some of the sensitive situations that have happened to our customers. But we are used by 5 of the top 10 U.S. banks, many financial institutions and manufacturing companies, law enforcement agencies, pretty widely used to protect data there, legal firms, sports teams, all over the place. We have had reported incidents, though, of IP being sold to a competitor. And after this was found, the company was awarded millions in damages, against the competitor. Having that proof in hand made the case much simpler for them to prove. Another company discovered that an employee was accepting kickbacks when they awarded contracts to vendors. Again, proof made it an open and shut case. I think one of my favorites, though, is kind of on the other side. When a security team came across a sales employee that had sent 50 Excel files named confidential client list, followed up by a 2-character state code, and then sent this out through a webmail account. As they went through the series of events leading up to that, they were very concerned, but they found that she had just received an email from, her boss who was traveling at the time on a sales trip, and his computer had died. So he didn't have access to his Outlook. The only way he could get to those files was through his personal webmail account. So the information that we were able to show them leading up to the event that happened that looked very concerning, we found out that she was just following her manager's direction and hadn't done anything appropriate. So in the end, our solution delivers the truth, whether it's good or bad.
Well, that's an excellent way to leave this discussion. Rob, I really appreciate your time and your insight today. We enjoyed your presentation, and especially thank you for taking time to answer these few questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Well, I'm afraid that is all the time we have today. One final time, I want to thank Rob Williams for his time and his insight, but mostly I want to thank each of you, our attendees, for taking time out of your day to attend this session. I do trust that today's discussion provided valuable insight to enable you and your organization to be even better prepared to tackle the insider threat. I look forward to seeing you again at one of our upcoming events. Until then, for Information Security Media Group, I'm Tom Field. Thank you very much.